Hello, everybody. I decided not to show you my face this time. I was feeling a bit shy. Okay, so welcome back. So we just got done watching a video that talked about doing your taxes and what that all means. So now that we understand, we pay taxes and we've talked about that. Now we want to ask ourselves, where does all that money go? Because listen to this. In 2016, like right now, the federal government is on pace to spend $4.1 trillion. Trillion with a capital T. Now, they got that money from us, but what on earth did they spend it on? That's a lot of money. So let's break it down. The first thing that they spend their money on is what we call national defense. And national defense is basically the military and anything that goes in to support the military, okay? That is about 16% of our national budget and for a total of $615 billion. So think about it. All the stuff we've done with our military this past year has cost $615 billion. That's a lot. And believe it or not, that's actually less than it's been over the past 10 years when we were more involved in places like Afghanistan and Iraq. So that's a pretty expensive thing. But get this, that's not even close compared to what we have with Social Security. Social Security, we spend $1.3 trillion a year. That's 33% of all the money that we collected this year is going to be spent on this one thing. And what Social Security is, we've talked about this, it's money given to old, retired people and some young people, but mostly retired people, so that they have enough money coming in to make ends meet. Now, it's not very much. It's only right here, it says about $1,400, $1,400, which sounds a lot when you're like 15, 16, but I think I mentioned this is not very much money to live on. And that's, when you add it up amongst the 39 million retired workers we have in this country, that's a lot of money. So that's where you get the $1.3 trillion. That's a lot, but here's the thing. I like the fact that it's money given to help people. That's really, really cool. Another thing, we spend a lot of money on healthcare. You know that Obamacare is something that many Republicans dislike, and one of the main reasons why they dislike it is because it costs so much. Now, other people argue that it's good, and even if it costs a lot, we should still do it. That's not really what we're going to talk about here. We will acknowledge that, yes, it does cost us a lot of money. $1.1 trillion is getting spent on making sure that people have enough health insurance so they can pay the doctor if they get sick and they can get medication and things like that. So there's a few different types of health insurance. We've got Medicare, Medicaid, CHIP, which stands for the Children's Health Insurance Program, and what we sometimes hear called Obamacare, which is actually called the Affordable Care Act. So that's $1.1 trillion. We are on our way to number 4, safety net programs. This is money that's given to people who have fallen upon hard times. So maybe you're in a family and your, parent loses their job and you don't have an income. Well, there are things our government has to make sure that you don't just, lose your home. We call them safety net programs. That's great. Again, it's another example of us helping people in our country. At the same time, helping people is very expensive. So it's $400 billion. So get this. Let's stop for a moment. Of the first 4 things that we spend our money on, 3 of the 4 are designed to help people out. I like that. At the same time, it's very expensive, and we're about to see tomorrow in class that all of this expense, well, we might not be able to afford it for very much longer. But let's keep going. Interest on the national debt. Now, this is a bit of a confusing one, but basically, we have to borrow money pretty much every year to pay for the things we can't already afford, like $1 trillion here and $1 trillion there. So when we borrow money, we have to pay interest to the people we've borrowed that money from, and that's what this is. We have to pay $283 billion this year just on interest for the debt that we've borrowed from people both in this country and other countries around the world. We'll talk a lot about the national debt, I think tomorrow or the next day. But suffice to say, it's an expensive, big problem, and we should all be really scared about it. Number 6, everything else, literally everything else that I haven't listed. That includes education, NASA, like space exploration, medical research, transportation, uh, the FBI, CIA, like all of this other stuff falls under this everything else category for a total of $532 billion. So it's kind of funny that everything else gets lumped in there. So let's break this down more visually because I think this makes it a bit clearer. You can see, like I said, the biggest areas of spending: Social Security, which is right here, Medicare, and other health insurance things, and then our military, again, we call that national defense, makes up almost 75% of our budget just from these three things. Then we get the interest on the debt. We get other things that are sort of smaller here: education, housing, community, international affairs, science, that are we loop it into everything else. So we're not really going to be able to get into it now, but a lot of people think that we don't spend our money well. And what we're going to talk about tomorrow is how such expensive things have caused our government to often not have enough money to pay for all these things. So we're going to tackle, what do we do when the government doesn't have enough money to pay for stuff, and what impact has that had on us in our economy over the past, say, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So skip that. Don't worry about it. That's all, everybody. Go to Canvas again, like I said, and there's another quiz about all the money we spend. Do your best on that, and I will see you later. Goodbye.